Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a truly astonishing story of extreme resilience and altruism. Today, we're looking at the life of Maria Fearing. This is a woman whose journey literally defies almost every single odd that history stacked against her.
Okay, so to kick things off, I want you to ask yourself a pretty heavy question. What would you be willing to permanently give up in order to fulfill your absolute highest calling? Like, what personal sacrifice would you actually make to help others? Keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this, because the historical figure we're looking at today, she gave up absolutely everything she'd built to answer her calling.
We're going to follow her remarkable journey through 4 main chapters. First, her transition from slavery to education. Second, the ultimate sacrifice she made. Third, her time as Mama Fearing in the Congo. And finally, her extraordinary legacy. All right, part 1, from slavery to education, and how she completely rewrote her destiny. The sheer scale of the historical shifts Maria lived through is just staggering. I mean, she was born into slavery in Alabama in 1838. So her early life was completely defined by the harsh, oppressive realities of the American South. She lived through emancipation and the end of the Civil War in 1865, and then went on to attend Talladega College during Reconstruction in the 1870s. But get this, here is the most astonishing part. When she made her incredible journey to the Congo in 1900, she was already 62 years old. Right? Her life spanned nearly a century. She passed away in 1937 at the remarkable age of 98, taking her from a life where she was literally treated as property to a life where she was a pioneer of global education. And this perfectly illustrates the brutal contrast in her early life. She was born into a system that denied her basic human freedom and deliberately kept her from formal education. She was intentionally locked in place. But post-emancipation, she didn't just survive. She pursued education with fierce determination. She attended Talladega College, which was one of the historically black colleges founded after the Civil War, and became a dedicated teacher. Having been denied learning for so long, she recognized that education was the literal key to opening the doors that slavery had tried to keep locked. Moving on to part 2, the ultimate sacrifice, a calling to Africa. So put yourself in the context of the late 19th century. Missionary opportunities for African-American women were incredibly limited. Yet Maria felt this distinct, powerful calling to serve in Africa and became associated with the American Baptist Missionary Union. Now, even though the odds were completely stacked against a woman, especially a woman who had been born into slavery, traveling thousands of miles across the ocean as a missionary, well, she just possessed an extraordinary amount of faith.
And it all came down to a single, really tangible number: 1. When she faced financial barriers to her mission, she actually sold her one and only home to personally finance her journey to Africa. Just think about what a home represents, right? Especially for someone who spent the first part of her life legally barred from owning any property at all. It was her absolute safety net, but she valued her calling way more than her own property. Honestly, her willingness to sacrifice her personal possessions is one of the most powerful examples of missionary commitment you will ever see.
If we trace her journey, it really builds this powerful progression. We're talking about going from being born into slavery in Alabama to fighting for an education, to selling her only home just across the Atlantic. By the time she stepped foot in the Congo Free State, she had traveled an immense geographical and social distance. She transformed from someone treated as property into an active, empowered protagonist in her own epic story. She stepped onto the African continent at the dawn of the 20th century, ready to serve for 30 years. Which brings us to part 3, Mama Fearing in the Congo, facing the crucible.
Our sources detailed the monumental dangers missionaries faced back then. The Congo Free State during this period was a really brutal environment, driven by King Leopold's horrific rubber regime and European colonial exploitation. Maria faced severe tropical diseases, incredibly difficult transportation, extreme heat and humidity, complex language barriers, deep social isolation, severely limited medical facilities, and intense political instability. So yeah, it was an incredibly harsh and dangerous environment. Yet, Maria remained fiercely committed to serving the Congolese people despite all these overwhelming odds.
But by braving those dangers, she made a massive impact. She actually helped establish the Luebo Girls' Home. And this home became a literal sanctuary, providing safe shelter, formal education, reliable food sources, Christian instruction, practical and vocational training, and crucially, protection from exploitation and abuse. Women and girls in the colonial-era Congo faced enormous social and economic vulnerabilities. Maria believed these girls deserved dignity and a future, and she built a refuge that offered them exactly that.
Her devotion was so deep that she earned a very special title. Mama Fearing was an affectionate name given to her by the girls she served, and it really reflected her role not just as a teacher, but as a deeply invested mother figure, protector, and spiritual mentor who lived directly among the people she was helping. She wasn't just preaching from a distance, you know. She partnered with other trailblazers, like William Henry Sheppard, a prominent African-American Presbyterian missionary, and brought a deep personal concern for dignity, education, and liberation to her relational ministry.
And that leads us into part 4, an extraordinary legacy, echoing across time. Her life is just a profound testament to long-term Christian service crossing racial, cultural, and geographical boundaries. This wasn't some short-term trip. She stayed for 30 years, working well into her advancing age. Her story proved that African Americans were not just recipients of missions, but powerful missionary leaders themselves. And the thing is, she wasn't a celebrity seeking fame or global recognition. Her greatness was measured by the sheer number of vulnerable children who found hope, education, and protection simply because she absolutely refused to stop serving. Now this brings us directly to why this matters for you today. Remember this truth: your past does not have to determine your future. Think about it. Maria was born in chains. She was born into a society that legally denied her basic human freedom, but she completely refused to let the circumstances of her birth dictate the purpose or the impact of her life. Decades later, she was thousands of miles away, transforming the lives of African children. She is literally the ultimate proof that where you start does not have to be where you finish. Ultimately, her life proves that ordinary faithfulness can create an extraordinary legacy. By using her own hard-won education to empower others, and by sacrificing her own personal comfort, again, literally selling her own home, she proved that you don't need a massive platform, immense wealth, or internet fame to change the world. You really just need consistent, ordinary faithfulness. Day in and day out, she just kept showing up for the girls at the Luebo home. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought about the legacy you are choosing to leave behind. If a woman born into slavery could sacrifice absolutely everything to empower generations across the globe, well, what extraordinary legacy are you building with the opportunities you have today? It's definitely a question worth asking yourself as you look at the resources and freedoms you possess right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this look into the phenomenal life of Maria Fearing.